Today I will read a text with a good pronunciation, which I was taught by a professor within an inter-faculty course. Text number 1. Let's start. Resource and industrialism in Canada. While the much anticipated expansion of the Western frontier was enforced in accordance with the design of the national policy, a new northern frontier was opening up to enhance the prospects of Canadian industrial development. Along the precinct of the fur trade, the Canadian Shield and the Western Cordilleras became a treasury of minerals, timber, and hydroelectric power in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. As early as 1993, CRP, Canadian Pacific Railway, construction crew were blasting through the regional terrain of northern Ontario discovered copper and nickel deposits in the vicinity of Sudbury. As refining processes, uses, and markers for the metal developed, Sudbury became the world's largest nickel producer. The building of the Temiskaming and Northern Ontario Railway led to the discovery of rich silver deposits around Cobalt Northland Lake, Nipissing in 1903, and that of a mining boom that spread northward to Kirkland Lake and the Porcupine District. Although the economic importance of this mining operation was enduring, they didn't capture the public imagination to the same extent as the Klondike Gold Rush of the late 1890s. 14 speakers from all parts of the world flocked to the Klondike and Yukon River. And Yukon River valleys to gather of gold starting in 1896. At the height of the gold rush in 1898, the previously unsettled Siberian frontier had a population of about 30,000, more than half of which was concentrated in the newly established town of Dawson. I take a pause and go out my cat. Let's continue. In the same year, the federal government created the Yukon Territory, administered by an appointed commissioner, in an effect toward of the prospect of annexation to Alaska. Even if the economic significance of the Klondike strike was somewhat exaggerated and short-lived, the chance of sudden riches, heroic and tragic exploits, and the rudeness and loneliness of the mining frontier were immortalized through popular fiction and folklore, notably the poetic verses of Robert Viserys. Perhaps less romantic than the mining booms, the exploitation of forest and water resources was just as vital to national development. The total spruce and cedar stands of British Columbia, along with the wild pine forests of Ontario, satisfied construction demands of the treeless prairies as well as in the growing cities and towns of central Canada and the United States. British Columbia's forests also supplied lumber to Asia. In addition, the softwood forests, wealth of the Cordilleras and the Shield was a valuable source of pulpwood for the development of the pulp and paper industry, which made Canada one of the world's leading exporters of newsprints. newsprint. Furthermore, the last foreign reviewers of the shields and colleges could really be harnessed as circus of hydroelectric power, replacing coal in the booming factories of central Canada, as well as in the evolving mining and pulp and paper industries. The age of electricity under public ownership and control was ushered in by the creation of the Ontario Hydroelectric Power Commission, now Ontario Hydro, in 1906 to distribute and eventually to produce this vital source of energy. Western settlement and the opening of the northern resource frontier stimulated industrial expansion, particularly in central Canada, as the national policy had intended. A growing agricultural population in the West increased the demand of Eastern manufactured goods, thereby giving rise to the agriculture implements works, iron and steel foundries, machine shops, railway yards, textile mills, boot and shoe factories, and numerous smaller manufacturing enterprises that supplied consumer goods. By giving out a lower price for manufactured goods and the high traffic policies of the federal government received much credit for protecting existence in industries and encouraging the creation of new enterprises. The climate draft wall large American industrial firms opened branch in Canada, and the government of Ontario and Quebec aggressively urged them on by offering bonuses, subsidies, and guarantees to locate new plants within their borders. Canadian industrial enterprises became increasingly attractive to foreign investors, especially from the United States and Great Britain. Much the over 600 million of American capital that flowed into Canada from 19th to 1930 was earmarked for mining at the pulp and paper industry, while British investors contributes near 1.8 billion, mostly in railway building, business development, and the construction of urban infrastructure. As a result, the gross value of Canadian manufactured products quadrupled from 1891 to 1916. It was too hard. My cheekbones hurt. Yes, very, very hurt. I tried to read another text. Text was hard for me. Yes. Social readjustment skills. In 1967, Holmes and Ray developed the social readjustment rating scale to measure life change as a form of stress. The scale assigns numerical values to 43 major life events that are supposed to reflect the magnitude of the readjustments required by each change. In responding to the scale, respondents are asked to indicate how often they experience any of these 43 events during a certain time period, typical of the past year. The person then adds up the numbers associated with each event checked. The SRRS and similar scales have been used in thousands of studies by researchers all over the world. Overall, these studies have shown that people with high scores on the SRS tend to be more vulnerable to many kinds of physical illness and many types of physiological problems as well. More recently, however, experts have criticized this research, citing problems with the methods used and raising questions about the meaning of the findings. First, the assumption that the SRS measures change exclusively has been shown to be inaccurate. We now have ample evidence that the desirability of events affects adaptational outcomes more than the amount of change that they require. Thus, it seems prudent to view the SRRS as a measure of diverse forms of stress rather than a measure of change-related stress. Second, the SRS fails to take into account difference among people and their subjective perception of how stressful an event is. For instance, while diverse may diverse stress value of 73 for most people, a particular person's diverse might generate much less stress and merit value of only 25. Third, many of events listed on the SRS and similar scales are highly ambiguous, leading people to be inconsistent as to which events they report experiencing. For instance, what qualifies as trouble with the boss? Should you check because you are sick and tired of your supervisor? What constitutes a change in living conditions? Does your purchase of a great new sound system qualify? As you can see, the SRS includes many events that are described inadequately, producing considerable ambiguity about the meaning of one's response. Problems in recalling events over a period of a year also lead to inconsistent responding on stress scales, thus lowering their reliability. Fourth, the SRS does not sample for the domain of stressful events very thoroughly. Just the 43 events listed on the SRS I'm sorry, exhaust all the major stress that people typically experience. Studies these things to explore that questions have found many significant omissions. Thank you for your watching.